those of the hosts, guests, and callers. They are not intended in any way to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease.
Welcome to Weight Loss Conversations, brought to you by 3Health Medical Weight Loss Solutions. Your hosts, Bradley Butterfield, Marlene Sexton, and Brandy Wiltermuth, have over 30 years' experience treating health issues associated with excess body weight. Get ready for an in-depth, honest discussion about weight loss and your health. Be sure to visit our website at 3.health. That's THREE.health.
Good morning. Welcome to Weight Loss Conversations with 3Health. This is Brad Butterfield. I'm the Executive Director and a practicing psychotherapist with 3Health. And with me this morning are Brandy Wiltermuth, ARNP, and our Medical Director. Brandy, how are you?
Good.
Good. And Marlene Sexton. She's also a practicing psychotherapist with 3Health and our Director of Therapy. Marlene?
Good morning.
And also this morning is Alexis Morales, our medical assistant and manager of operations. Alexis plays a key role. She drives Brandy and Marlene and I from Edmonds to the studio.
Otherwise, I don't think we'd make it.
Yeah, there you go.
Thank
Every
you,
Monday
Alexis.
morning. Well, Brandy and Marlene and I drink coffee, or Marlene and Brandy sleep in the back seat. So.
Yeah. Very
She
important.
plays a key role. She gets us here every Monday morning, so thank you. How's it going?
Good. How was your weekend?
Mine was very fun. I was snowed in all week, and so got out last night and
Yay.
had dinner with some friends. I'm going to say a shout out to Kelly and Jen and Matt, who all came up from California, and
Hey, guys.
they listened to our podcast and our radio programs from there.
Hey,
So
thanks for listening.
And Cynthia in Sacramento also has
Cool.
not missed a program yet.
Wow.
So hey, you guys.
Last week was kind of wild for everybody in the Northwest with the snow and being snowed in.
Yeah, it was a rough one, I thought. And now the roads are great, but the parking lots are still dangerous.
Yeah.
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 It's pretty slippery out there.
It's better this week. I don't know if we're going to get more snow. I haven't looked at the forecast.
I'm trying to ignore it.
Are you?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
We do have a topic this morning. Our topic is accountability strategies to reach your health and weight loss goals. When we came up with this topic, we were talking about it. We were all a little hesitant to even use the word accountability because sometimes that speaks to judgment from others. And so what were your thoughts about that when we talked about accountability?
I like the idea of teaching people the skills and the tools to use to remain accountable to themselves. But I really don't like it when people come in and fear the response that I'm going to have based on their weight.
That we're going to judge them in some way.
Yeah, that this is a performance kind of thing and I'm going to judge them based on that. Or that I'm going to be mad or upset, which is just crazy to me to think that people think that, especially after doing this for so long. But I think that is because of commercial weight loss programs and the way that they approach trying to help people lose weight, which is more of just judgment and shame instead of what we do at 3Health, which is more problem solving.
Yeah, and I think we hear a lot of people that will say that they want to lose weight for a reunion or for their spouse or for, their parents or children. It really is sustainable if you're doing this for yourself and you see your own value.
Right.
I mean, that's what we teach.
So I don't think most commercial weight loss programs care about why people are wanting to lose weight. They don't investigate that very thoroughly. And I think it's core to getting to why people want to and then understanding their motivations. That also helps us to figure out which tools are going to be best in helping them in their process.
So what I hear is it's primarily accountability to self. We're not talking about necessarily accountability to others or having others hold us accountable.
Or doing it even for us, that if they're going to come in for an appointment, that they have to have lost X amount of pounds before we'll be happy with them.
Yeah.
And that's not sustainable weight loss. Isn't actually, we really don't look at the numbers that closely. It's we use other benchmarks, like do you have more energy? Your clothes fitting differently? Do you feel better?
Right. Are you able to move better?
Yeah.
Are you sleeping?
Yeah, sleeping, reducing medications, that sort of thing. But with years and years of if people have dieted, and most of our clients have dieted over many years, you start adopting that somebody's going to judge you when you come in for weigh-in. I hear people all the time telling I don't go to Weight Watchers anymore because I was embarrassed by the
weigh-in
weigh-ins.
process. Yeah.
And so we're very sensitive to that at 3
What's coming to my mind as I'm listening to you speak is the Biggest Loser show where they have everybody standing there, and they had that great big huge digital scale.
Yeah.
And the participants one at a time would have to go stand on that, and then the numbers would go all over the place, and there was almost a drum roll, and you would wait for the number to finally come up. Sometimes it'd even break for a commercial, and the number would come up. I can't imagine the stress that would create for somebody.
Yeah, it just seems like that was. I only watched the show once, so I'm not. And I felt like it was needed to be off the air.
Yeah.
To do that to human beings, and the studies have said that most of them gained all their weight back too.
Sure.
Right.
So, we really want our program to be, our big mission is to make it sustainable weight loss. And it's going to be different than commercial programs.
Right. And it's going to be different based on why you're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So if your goal is to reduce medications and be metabolically in better shape, then yes, we will weigh you and look at the scale, but that's not the markers that we're going to determine success or challenges by.
So in the title of our program, we said to reach your own personal health and weight loss goals. So these are your personal goals, not somebody else's goals.
Right.
Right. And we do that in the first evaluation and appointments, is finding out what are your personal goals. And sometimes it's getting people to really think about it. They might come in with, my doctor says I have to lose weight, or, I've got this reunion coming up or whatever. But, with some discussion, some communication, we can get down to the root of what do you really want to lose weight for.
Mm-hmm.
Marlene, I was thinking when you and I were doing a lot of pre-operative psychological evaluations, which were mandatory for surgery patients, one of the questions that we would often ask is, who have you talked to about this surgery that is upcoming? And the most common answer that I got was maybe one or two other people. Somebody might answer that question like, I've just spoken with my spouse, but a large percentage of the time it was one or two other people.
Yeah.
It was almost, it's like I have a big test coming up or a big exam coming up, and I haven't really told anybody just in case I should fail.
Yeah, that was always when I'd say, well, because I would absolutely respect somebody's boundaries around who they tell and what they tell and when they tell, but wanting to know still, what's the fear there. And if they said, well, if I fail at this, I don't want people to know it. So, getting to the core of why do you really want to do this and focusing on that rather than what other people are going to think.
Right. And because of what happens in a lot of what we've called diets or other dieting programs with the high failure rate, to ask somebody to be accountable to other groups or other people, there's a lot of stress there, because then all of a sudden other people are looking at what you're putting in your mouth, or that sort of accountability to others. Yeah, it really, that's a good point, Brandy. It goes to judgment, doesn't it? And so that's kind of tough stuff.
Yeah, and there's a lot of anecdotal evidence. People will say that they decide they're just going to, take the weekend off from thinking about anything. And then somebody says, should you be eating that? And, we deal with adults. And it really is about getting people to see to define their own goals, see their own value, and do this for themselves and tune others out. And we've got strategies to help people do that, to stay on the track that they want to be on.
Okay. And then as an adult, to have a friend or maybe even more importantly, a partner or a spouse or another family member watching you and asking you, should you be eating that or putting that in your mouth? It gets pretty annoying.
Yeah, and I'll deal with people, and we'll talk about that. And I'm a big believer in tell people what is supportive for
Right.
you.
Don't make them try
Don't
to
make them
figure it out.
guess, because when people are guessing, they don't often get it right.
Right.
And so to be really assertive about it and say, here's how you can support me.
Good point. Support is different than accountability.
Right.
Right.
And worst case scenario, it can lead to some really poor behavior, such as eating in secret and,
Oh,
and
yeah.
other things.
Mhm.
There's a lot of shame
There's a
around
lot of
not
shame.
performing well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So when we're talking today, we're going to talk about a number of positive things that you can do to support your own self with accountability.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think we'll go through some tools that we
Okay.
like to teach people.
That'd be great. Why don't we start talking about some positive things that might be
Okay.
tools?
Okay.
One of the things that we did list is biometrics,
Mhm.
what we call biometrics. So, Brandy, I'm gonna shove that one over to you real quickly. What how would you use biometrics to stay on track?
So the scale is one way of measuring progress,
Mhm.
but it's usually not the best way. So I use a couple different things, and we can get into that after we take a break.
Yeah, that's a good point. It is time to take a break. So this is Weight Loss Conversations with 3Health. We will take a break. We've been talking about accountability strategies to reach your health and weight loss goals. So we'll take a break and we'll come back and we'll talk about biometrics.
Introducing 3Health Medical Weight Loss Solutions, a unique weight loss clinic backed by real medical research with a treatment focusing on the entire person, mind, body, and spirit. From medical services for obesity and high blood pressure to behavioral services for emotional eating and depression, 3Health Medical Weight Loss Solutions can help you change your relationship with food, your relationship with yourself, and with life. Find out more, 425-606-0022. Or online at 3.health. That's 3.health.
Some people know a good thing when they hear it. Alternative Talk 1150.
Welcome back. This is Weight Loss Conversations with 3Health. And before the break, we were discussing accountability strategies to reach your health and weight loss goals. And primarily, we were talking about accountability to self, not accountability as judgment or shame from others. And Brandy, we were going to talk about using biometrics to stay on track.
Mhm.
So speak to us a little bit about that.
So biometrics includes a bunch of different kinds of measures. It can be weight. It can be, waist circumference. It can be, my favorite tool is body composition, right? Because we often see that people will be losing weight and feeling good. And at some point, the scale seems to slow down in terms of showing how much weight people are losing. But then they report that their pants are falling off, right? And
Right.
so that plays I think, can be detrimental to the mindset because there's so much pressure put on just the number on the scale, right? But when I can prove to people that, look, your body is changing, you're losing fat and you're gaining muscle or you're maintaining muscle, and you can't deny that because you can see it in your clothes, it helps people realize that they have to look at more than one thing. And it's not that great to do body compositions at every visit, but to do them every couple of months or so we can see trends and respond if it's not going the way we want to. But I think the dieter mentality still there every time people come in and they comment about their weight. So we also measure or ask them to weigh themselves at home, fasting, naked, before they come in, and that truly is their weight. By the time they've gotten to us and they have clothes on and they've eaten or drank something, that's still a good number, but it's not as good as their first weight in their morning, their fasting weight. I call it their dry weight.
So when people initially come to us in our practice, they're thinking about a number on a scale. That's the way most of us are
and
trained to think.
Part of our process is to help them recognize whether that's even remotely healthy or possible or realistic. Because a lot of people say, well, I want to weigh what I did when I graduated high school. And usually it ends up that they have as much muscle as their total weight when they graduated high school. So there's no way that they're going to do that without losing a lot of muscle, and that would be very unhealthy, right? So part of it is teaching people the realistic goal and then teaching them the biometric tools to help measure that goal and recognize that the scale is a piece of that, but it's not the most important tool that we use in terms of measuring what's happening in the body.
And by having it be a realistic goal, it's attainable.
It's
something
attainable.
they can achieve.
Mm-hmm.
What's funny, and I think we've mentioned before, is that, if people they say, well, the BMI scale says I should weigh 130, but I felt really good around 160. Almost always, the 160 is a realistic weight based on body composition. So it's having to reconcile that in their head and kind of adopt a different goal based on reality and what we're seeing is now versus a scale that doesn't necessarily apply to them personally.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. Another thing that we use in a accountability strategy is the idea of the food diary, the journal, the planner. So let's talk about that a little bit. One of the things that I've used, and it's something that we use in basic business strategy, is you need to measure so that you can see where you've been and where you're going.
Mm-hmm.
And so we do emphasize using that in our clinic.
Well, a food journal or even a planner can really tell you a lot about about how mindful you need to be. A lot of people don't realize. I mean, I can look at a food journal and see that somebody was either craving chips or eating chips almost, a few times a week, maybe around 4:30. And now we can look at what's happening around 4:30. That's stressing. And sometimes it's hunger. They skipped lunch. Sometimes it's stress of work, or they're getting off work and they have to go pick kids up and then figure out dinner. And so we can talk about more time management rather than just being stressed. Sometimes people recognize that they really feel more stressed as they're going home,
Right.
that their homes are stressful.
And
So it's kind of tough to manage what you don't measure.
Yeah.
what you're saying.
And we talk a lot about the power of, I think, setting out a plan, because even if it doesn't happen the way you planned it, you know in your mind what you're going to do and try to do.
Mm-hmm.
Part of our job then is to help people recognize why it didn't work and see patterns in that, which they might not even be aware of. So when people bring in their food journal or their planner, I don't scrutinize every item. I don't count up their calories or anything like that. I just look at patterns and try to recognize if people are having a problem. Like if I'm hungry at 4 p.m., well, it's because you ate lunch at noon and then you're waiting to eat dinner at 7, and you just need to figure out something that's going to be easy and, reasonable and fit into your plan. at that time at 4 o'clock. And I think that also goes back to the dieter mentality that if I just eat less, I'll be getting more progress, making more progress. And we know that that's not true. It just leads to more hunger. So we have to explore this stuff with people. And it's really hard to know those things if you don't have it written down that we can see it.
And Marlene, one of the things that I have found with a number of my patients over the years is when they're starting the food journal, often somebody will say, well, I don't want to write down the bad things.
Yeah.
And I like to explore that a little bit, the emotional response of writing down, quote, the bad things. And
Yeah.
I find that kind of interesting.
Yeah, and I mean, we do make a point of telling people that they're, you're not a bad person if you eat a candy bar, and you're a good person if you eat a salad. It doesn't have anything to do with your moral character. And to just see what, find those patterns that have been probably hidden, and just creating guilt and stress on a person.
Yeah.
Right,
and
because people fall back to saying, I made a mistake,
Yeah.
I did something
Sure.
wrong, instead of evaluating why was I feeling that way.
Yeah, and maybe to even be curious, if you can be, about the emotional response you're having when you do write it down. That's not
It-
necessarily a
tuning
bad
in
thing.
to
Sure.
what's going on with me. And it, for a lot of people, they do, after they get over the initial fear of having to do it. I tell them too, you don't have to share it with me. If you find the pattern, we'll just work with that. But sometimes they'll hand it over and say, I can't see a pattern, and just a third eye can look at it and say, well, it seems like late afternoon is your most stressful time, or late in the evening when you're watching TV. And that's what needs to be addressed. I have many women clients that their me time, their downtime, is at 10, 11, midnight, and they're up and they're eating and they're hungry. And we can look at that why is your me time at midnight? That's the problem, not that you ate popcorn. It's that your me time is about 6 hours too late.
Or even maybe what's going on with you emotionally during that me time, or another time that you're going to a problematic food choice.
It points out things that could remain hidden, that might be obstacles to sustainability, lost weight. So it is. I get that people initially are like, I don't want to write down everything I've eaten today.
Yeah, I try to convince them that it's just data.
Yeah.
I just need the data so
Just
that we can
information.
see what happens.
And there's different ways to do it. There's apps for that. You can write it with a pencil and paper. You can do it with an electronic app. We have patients that prefer maybe one or the other.
Yeah. And one of the things too that can come up is that they might be putting the foods that they think are good for them, sugar-free or low-fat, and we can tell them, that's not going to work.
Right.
You don't have, they might be starving themselves, and it's another way of giving them good information.
Right. I really like seeing when people have an exploratory sort of mindset when they go into this process of journaling and writing what they're eating and planning, because there's no way that I can presume that I know what someone's going to need exactly, and I can suggest things, but they need to figure out what they're going to eat and what foods are going to work for them, because everybody's individual.
Everybody's in it. Again, goes back to our individual programs.
Right.
I might even take this a little bit further. We, of course, know that it's very important to be recording what you are eating. Sometimes with patients, though, I will encourage them to, if they're wanting to record other things. You can, if you want to encourage yourself, give yourself gold stars or credits. You can record your activities, your physical activities. I don't see that as being a bad thing. If you're taking walks, or if you're wearing some sort of pedometer or fitness monitor, you can record your steps. I think giving yourself credit for those things can be a good thing.
That's really important. And I like to redefine exercise for people too. That it's movement. Does not need to be an hour at the gym with a trainer. It can be gardening, it can be
Sure.
walking, it can be taking your kids to the trampoline zone, it can be any kind of movement. And when people see themselves as movers, they're much more likely to do it. A lot of our clients will come in and say, I hate exercise. What they hate is an hour in the gym or doing a program in front of a TV. And so there are a lot of other ways to get exercise besides that. And sometimes I'll ask them, what did you like to do as a little kid, as a young kid? And say, I like to jump rope or ride my bike or play on the trampoline. You can do all those things still.
Or taking a great brisk walk with your dog.
Yeah. And, there are a lot of ways to move. And it's important that people recognize that
So,
it's not
so
just
being aware of those things and journaling those things
Mhm.
can be equally important.
Yeah, because at times when you're having a struggle or beating yourself up, you could look back and see I am doing something different.
Yeah. I like weight graphs, and when people track their cravings,
Mhm.
that's way more revealing to me than everything's being perfectly recorded or planned. Because, honestly, I don't really have to worry about it when people are doing their plan perfectly. I need to worry about what is lurking, what's underneath that could potentially be getting in the way. And if they don't acknowledge that and don't shed light on it, it's easy to just ignore it and never have to face those things.
And if you can't acknowledge it, you can't change it.
Right.
So if it was a weight graph, it would look like it would be a chart that might have a date and numbers on it,
Mhm.
and it's not a perfect downward spiral. It's going to have ups and downs.
No, and then it also clues me in. It's a really good sign when people won't record their weight when it goes up.
Okay.
Then they really need you guys.
Yeah.
But that's pretty common too. And again, it's that performance, and I have to be perfect, and I have to do everything right.
And we know that there's going to be plateaus. That's
Yeah.
just
yeah.
part of the
And
of the program.
it's valuable to learn that weight's going to fluctuate a little bit every day.
Okay.
It's never just going to keep going down.
Well, it's time for us to take a break. We've been discussing biometrics and weight graphs and journaling as part of the accountability strategies to reach your health and weight loss goals. And this is Weight Loss Conversations with 3 Health, and we'll be back in just a couple of minutes. Thank you.
With decades of experience helping patients change their lives, 3 Health Weight Loss Solutions can help you too. At 3 Health, we provide proven and science-based solutions for realistic, achievable, and sustainable results. We're unique, just like you, and the relationships you have with food and yourself. Find out how we treat obesity, depression, high cholesterol, and more. Just give us a call and change your life today. 425-606-0022. Or visit us online at 3.health. That's THREE.health.
Alternative Talk 1150 online at 1150kknw.com.
Welcome back. This is Weight Loss Conversations with 3 Health. We've been discussing today accountability strategies to reach your health and weight loss goals. And before the break, we were discussing how to use biometrics to stay on track and using food diaries, journals, and planners to help you with accountability strategies. And I'd like to discuss clothing and skinny jeans and your clothing maybe that were larger sizes and some other things that we've seen our patients use. So one of the things that we'd written down here is is save your skinny jeans. What does that mean?
So I always ask people when they're starting the program to go in their closet and get a pair of pants, usually, that are too small and that they had worn at one point, and to keep trying them on in conjunction with weighing themselves and tracking the weight, because we all know the scale will lie, but your clothes don't. And there's no denying how your body's changing when you couldn't wear those pants and now you can. And I think it kind of boils down to creating an environment that is accountable. It supports your accountability to yourself and your weight and your health. Much like other things on our list, like keeping tempting foods out of your house, that creates an environment that is going to be supportive and it helps you be accountable. But clothes are huge because people they spend money on clothes and they like to
And they save clothes.
them, right? But I really encourage people to get rid of the clothes that are too big for them because you don't want the option of just going back to those bigger sizes.
Well, and subconsciously too, if you're setting them aside and saying, "I may need these," what you're saying is you're keeping them. You did the same thing with the clothes that no longer fit, that are too small, is they were set aside with the hope that someday I'll be using these again. And when you keep your clothes that are too big, subconsciously, it's saying, I'll need these again.
Right.
And you don't want to give that kind of energy to your subconscious because it wants to make you right.
So when a patient, and I've had patients do this, says to me, I've taken all of those larger clothes and either given them away, donated them, thrown them away, that's a pretty good move on their part.
Yeah, it is. And I mean, I encourage people to take, because sometimes they'll say, well, I paid a lot for it. Well, some things you can have altered, go to, a dry cleaner and use alterations, and it's not very expensive to have them made smaller. But to give them to a consignment shop or to give them, to a charity that's going to use them. Maybe they're good, expensive clothes. Somebody can use them for job interviews and things that you'd feel good about as well. But keeping them is really counterproductive.
It's they're kind of hedging their bets, aren't they, when they
frankly,
do that?
your health is worth more than what you spent on clothes.
Right.
Yeah.
So and also people will keep things for years, and part of self-care is that you deserve to buy yourself more current things that fit you now.
And that might be in style.
Yeah.
There's only one exception to this. I had a male patient a couple of years ago who did keep his belt, and his belt was his measuring device.
Yeah.
And he every time he came in over a series of a couple of years, he had punched a new hole, a new notch in the belt, so to speak, and I think he had 20 or 30 new holes that he put in that belt. He was very proud and determined to keep it because he kept showing me how the belt was getting smaller and smaller for him.
Yeah, when we were working with surgical patients, I often told people you can save one thing for comparison. But do get rid of all the other, a lot of people described having different sections in their closet for different sizes. And they'd go, these are the ones I wear when I'm heavier and the ones I wear when I'm lighter. And like save one thing and get rid of all the other ones so that you're not, it's just subconsciously it says, I'm going to need these someday.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great point of pride. In particular, for a lot of our female patients, they will come in and they won't tell me maybe the number on the scale right away, but what they will tell me is how proud they are of the new size jeans that they're wearing. I hear that really often.
Yeah.
I see it all the time. People come in and they eventually get to the place where the scale is interesting, but it's not the best measure, and they're pulling their pants up, and we see a lot of our patients constantly pulling their pants up.
Yeah.
Have you guys noticed that?
Well, and Brandy, I think that goes full circle to what you were talking about at the beginning of our program about biometrics.
Yeah.
So as they're getting more lean bodies and muscle, the jean size gets smaller too.
Right, and I think the focus shifts.
Sure.
Yeah.
which
Yeah.
is really important to be able to assess how you're doing and use accountability measures, but to have that confidence that, it isn't only the scale weight.
Right.
And that's really, really important. I want people to learn that and use that throughout the process.
And as people are having success, I like them to create a reward system for themselves, a non-food reward system.
Right.
Of what are you going, do to acknowledge these. I encourage people to set small goals and just do this kind of incrementally, and when they reach a goal, to give themselves a reward, a non-food reward. And that might be, just an hour of uninterrupted time, or bath by candlelight, or,
A
the standard
massage.
massage, pedicures, calling a friend.
I had a lady who would buy herself a really nice piece of jewelry every 25 pounds.
Nice.
Well, I had a patient that would buy herself a nice gift, and she would set it on a shelf, and she wouldn't use it or open it until she hit her goal.
Oh.
Yeah.
And it sat there until she did that, which I found kind of interesting.
Yeah, whatever works is, we do more of what works and less of what doesn't, is my motto. So if somebody says, it works for me to reach my goal and buy myself a gift, great. If somebody says, I want to buy the gift and use it as an incentive to reach my goal, great if it works. We do determine things with how they're working, how's that working for you?
Right. We have to know our tools.
Yeah. But I think it is important, and there are a lot of non-food rewards out there that aren't terribly expensive. You don't have to break the bank to reward yourself.
Mm-hmm.
We
Music.
often, and maybe a bigger reward that we often see too, is a trip, a holiday or a vacation to be taken with family.
And there are some things that are weight limited. Like I had a patient that wanted to go skydiving, and she had to get to a certain weight before she could go, and she did it.
Sure.
Right?
That was pretty cool.
Yeah. So sometimes too, figuring out what works for you individually and what doesn't. Sometimes telling people about your goals will work, as long as you're telling supportive people. There is some evidence that when you're speaking your goal, that it's more likely to come true.
Well, Marlene, I'm glad that you said that. I want to go there for a minute. When we've talked about accountability, we've talked about this is about accountability to yourself. We want to get the judgment and the shame out of this. When do you think it is appropriate to have maybe, one of the things we wrote is go steady with your diet best friend, or do share this with somebody else, or be part of a support group, or share this with other people?
I think the key word is support.
Okay.
So if they're going to be supportive, you might have more success by sharing it with others. If they're not supportive, that's not going to work.
Okay.
I think most people have a gut feeling whether somebody's supportive or not. When we were working with surgery patients, I would ask who they've told, and some people would say, oh, I remember one young woman said, my grandmother's going to have a fit when she finds out I had surgery. Does your grandmother even need to know? I mean, the grandmother wasn't paying for it. She had nothing to do with it. I said, this is your personal decision. And she had just kind of been raised that you have to tell the grandmother everything. And I'm like, well, not
Maybe
necessarily. If she's going to have a fit and she's not going to be supportive, how is that going to be helpful to you?
Right.
Yeah.
So when you're talking about having a buddy or someone that is going to, be on the same path as you, that still doesn't mean that you have to be doing the exact same things. Somebody's going to be doing something, somebody else is going to be doing maybe something a little bit different. But if you can mutually support each other along the way, that's what we're looking for. But you don't want to be accountable necessarily to that person.
We often have couples, partners, spouses that will do programs together. And one of the things I've noticed, especially if there's a man and a woman doing this together, is you don't necessarily have to share the number on the scale together.
Right. You don't want to make it a competition.
That's correct. And it's not uncommon because of body chemistry and biometrics that a man might lose weight differently or more rapidly than a female, and that can be frustrating. So you can support one another, but don't necessarily have to share the number on the scale.
Mm-hmm. And I always encourage my clients to tell their support person what support actually is to them. What
It's not being the food police.
Yeah, for some, like one woman told me, they were just a couple clients, just a few days apart. One woman said her husband was very supportive, and she appreciated him telling her, asking her, do you really need that? And she goes, I really appreciate that, so I could sit and ask myself, is this something I want? And then about 2 days later, I got another woman that's ready to divorce her husband because he sat there and said, do you really need that? So I said, well, what would be supportive? And she said, I don't know, but it's not that. Well, if you don't know, he doesn't know. So we have to come up with what would be. And we figured out something that would be supportive for her, and she was going to communicate that to him. But to just assume that somebody knows what support is, it can be kind of detrimental.
Can't read your mind?
Yeah.
Well, and I think often a spouse or a partner might think support means taking over the management of your program. And often what we're looking for is someone just to listen to us, not manage us.
And, tell people what works for you. And I've had the same thing. Some people are delighted, oh, my husband compliments me and tells everybody how much weight I've lost. And for other people, that's a real violation. Mm-hmm. So you have to be assertive and say what works and what doesn't for you. You have to know it.
Right.
So,
good point.
Yeah.
So we've been discussing accountability strategies to reach your health and weight loss goals, and we're going to take a break. And when we come back, we're going to continue the conversation, and we're even going to give you a takeaway today that we hope will help you all. And so this is Weight Loss Conversations in 3 Health. We'll be right back.
Introducing 3 Health Medical Weight Loss Solutions, a unique weight loss clinic backed by real medical research with a treatment focusing on the entire person, mind, body, and spirit. From medical services for obesity and high blood pressure to behavioral services for emotional eating and depression, 3 Health Medical Weight Loss Solutions can help you change your relationship with food, your relationship with yourself, and with life. Find out more, 425-606-0022. Or online at 3.health. That's 3.health.
Alternative Talk 1150, here to uplift your day.
Welcome back. This is Weight Loss Conversations with 3 Health, and we've been discussing accountability strategies to reach your health and weight loss goals. And before the break, we were discussing skinny jeans and holding on to clothing that you wore when you were a larger size and having the courage to give those things away, and different strategies about clothing. And now I'd like to go to something that Marlene brought up over the break. I'd like to discuss keeping tempting foods out of the house. That's really a big one for accountability strategies. Marlene, what were you thinking about that?
Well, on so many levels. One is sustainable weight loss requires a lifestyle change, and it requires proactivity. So keeping tempting foods, the unhealthy foods, out of your house is going to reduce the amount that you eat of them. It just will. I'm a wealth of useless information, and one of the studies I read once was that if you go home and you take your shoes off and you don't have any junk food in your house, you have an 89% chance of not eating junk food just because you took your shoes off. It signals that you're in for the night. You're not going to go to the store and buy it. But if you have the food in the house, it's going to call your name, and you're going to battle with yourself. Do I want that? Should I have that? Maybe I'll wait an hour and see if I want it. And eventually you're going to have it. So it's just about taking your program seriously and not making it more of an effort to, battle yourself. Just it's not healthy stuff. Nobody needs it. I hear a lot, well, I have teenagers and I need to have chips and ice cream. No, you don't. They don't, unless you want them to struggle in their adulthood with food issues.
Or be addicted to sugar and
yeah,
salt.
and they can, I guarantee you, they can find it outside the house.
And so we're talking about accountability strategies, and I'm going to emphasize the word strategy here and keeping it out of the house. So for me, one of the strategies, and I know for many of our patients, is where do you get the food? Well, it's in the supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
So you have a strategy when you walk in the supermarket.
Mm-hmm.
I like the pick it up in the parking lot strategy.
That's
that
well.
way I don't even have to go in.
Speak
and be
about that,
tempted.
because
Mhm.
a lot of markets now are either delivering or you can pick it up in the parking lot.
I've used it, and so many of our patients have used that tool that, they know how to display food to make it look
Yep.
really appealing. They prey on people who are going there hungry,
Mm-hmm.
and they know how to direct you through the store to those items. So if you don't even set foot in the store, but you make a list and you're planned out and you know what you're going to have, you can save yourself a ton of headache, and you can be more organized with your eating and plan
save money.
and save money and plan things out. And I live in a situation where I have two people in the house that like, to eat sweet and sugar things, and I have to ask them to put it in a certain place. And as long as I don't see it, I'm okay. But at first, you might not even be able to have it in the house where
Mhm.
it's hidden from you from plain sight. So you just kind of have to evaluate that and see what's going to work for you. And then it might change over time, but it might not. So that goes back to asking for support, not having it sitting out, and then somebody saying, "Are you supposed to be eating that?"
Sure,
Mhm.
sure. So, our last 2 weeks, we had our sugar conversations, and
Yeah.
I self-disclosed about my sugar addiction. So for me, in the store, there's what I call the center aisles with the
Mhm.
freezer cases, and then next to those are the center aisles with the cookies and the chips, and they're right down the middle of
Candy.
the stores, and the
Mhm.
candies. Thank you. And it's interesting to get back to the meat and dairy section. If you want to get there quickly, you go through those center aisles. And I will tell you that for a number of years, I do not roll my shopping cart through those center aisles. I go around the perimeters. And the perimeters of the supermarket are typically the produce section is the way that I navigate my way to the rear of the store. And I just never go through those center aisles. And so that
Stores are catching on to that now.
they?
I was shopping the other day, and they have the fresh fruit and vegetables and stuff, and right across, same place is the candy and the bulk candies and stuff. They're catching
Okay.
on.
They know how to direct
It's
people.
a science, and they're good at it. So we have to go in, having a list, or having them bring it out to the car, or sending a friend to, I'll do your shopping, you do mine. But people often talk about eating whole foods as being more expensive, and it can be, the steak is going to be more expensive than chips, but when you're going into the store without a list, you're spending a whole lot more money on stuff.
And I
don't
agree with
need.
you. I think going in with the list is really crucial. Knowing
Yeah.
what you want or what you need when you go in.
Speaking of more whole foods, it used to be the store I went to, there was a section of kind of organic or, kind of the more specialty stuff that you might be looking for if you're paying more attention. And now they've blended it in with the rest of the store, so you have to go
Yeah.
explore these other aisles to find those items.
Mhm.
So they have a lot of strategies to get you to go down those aisles.
Yeah, it's strategies, not having it in the house and then being very aware when you're watching TV. What messages are you getting from product placement and commercials? Most people, leave during the commercials or DVR their stuff and don't watch them, and they know that. The food manufacturers and restaurants and stuff know that, so then they just put product placement in TV shows, and pretty soon, 20 minutes later, you're going, do you want a snack? So it really is being, how am I going to do this? With TV, we used to think that it was the problem with TV was that you were sitting and not moving, and that's why people were gaining weight is they were watching TV. The reason that they gain weight is they watch TV and then eat more because they're eating while watching TV. So they're not paying attention to those signals, and they're getting a lot of signals to eat more. So eat different things too. So it's just being mindful.
Yeah. I think another accountability strategy, just from a pretty basic physiological point of view, is that if you eat breakfast, you're going to set yourself up for a better overall eating day. Your energy is going to be better. You're going to, well, it kind of depends on the breakfast, but if you're eating a breakfast that's a little bit higher in protein and fat, that's going to set your metabolism up, and it's going to satiate you from the start. And so I think I met so many people over the years that just say, I don't eat breakfast, I don't like breakfast, I've never done that. And sometimes we challenge that a little bit because it's interesting to see when you make people do it and you force that metabolism into action, that their whole appetite will change. And of course, appetite is wanting to eat, it's not hunger. So setting the stage basically by eating breakfast gives you so much more strength at 10 o'clock in the evening.
Yeah.
Which people don't correlate that, but it really does impact that.
So valuing your time and time management is a big part of this.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is, and including sleep, because sleep deprivation also interferes a great deal it contributes. Sleep deprivation contributes.
Oh, yeah.
So there's a
weight
lot
gain.
of accountability strategies to reach your health and weight loss goals that we've discussed today. Brandy and Marlene, at the end of every show, we like to give our listeners a takeaway. What would you summarize today as being a takeaway regarding these accountability strategies?
Well, I think it's important that people give it some thought, give it some real thought of what tools do I need to lose weight, be healthy, sustain weight loss. And, we've talked about, getting rid of clothes and keeping a journal and creating a reward system and all of that. But, and obviously those things, we've seen those things work, but sit down and really look at it. What do I need to do to sustain this? Where are the obstacles? Do I need help? And if somebody needs, and a lot of people need help to really figure out the path that they need to go on, and that's what 3 Health is there for.
Right.
We can help you with your individual program.
So we're teaching you how to be accountable to yourself.
Yeah.
And that's going to be
value you.
sustainable, because if you are typically, a commercial weight loss program, they want you to rely on them for the accountability, which makes you dependent on them for your success. And that is the complete opposite of what we're doing here at 3 Health. We want to teach sustainability and accountability strategies that you can take with you.
Good. Brandy, what would you like to say about what's coming up?
Okay, so a couple things. We are going to be at the Northwest Women's Show on March 9th and 10th. It's at the Tacoma Dome. Tickets are $15 or $11 if you have BECU membership. And kids under the age of 10 are free with a paid adult ticket. We have 6 passes that we are giving away. So if you're interested in attending the Northwest Women's Show for free, you can give us a call. That number is 425-606-0022. Or you can email us at contactus@3.health, and that's THREE.health, and let us know that you would like a pass. It's a 1-day pass for the show. and we will get that to you.
And you're going to be measuring biometrics there.
We are doing biometrics. We're in booth 619.
Good.
Hope to see you there.
Thank you. Everybody have a good week. Be safe out there.
Thanks for listening to Weight Loss Conversations, brought to you by 3 Health Medical Weight Loss Solutions. We love hearing from our audience, so be sure to drop us a note. We so appreciate when you tell family and friends about our program. Also, don't forget that our past programs are found at 1150kknw.com. That's 1150kknw.com. Have a wonderful week and tune in next Monday at 8 a.m. That's 8 a.m. Monday. Be sure to visit our website at 3.health. That's THREE.health.
The content and opinions expressed during this program were those of the hosts, guests, and callers. They are not intended in any way to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent disease.